Start. Welcome back guys. Now in this video let's discuss about the action potential in a neuron. Okay, already we have discussed about what exactly is the resting membrane potential, but again here I will give you the basics. Okay, now let's see how an action potential is traveling on the membrane of the neurons. First of all, you need to have a basic understanding of what exactly is the resting membrane potential. For that, try to look at here. See, imagine this is your neuron, doesn't matter sensory neuron or motor neuron. Imagine here is a neuron. Okay, that's the neuron. See, every cell in our body is having a resting membrane potential. What is the resting membrane potential of this neuron? The resting membrane potential of a neuron is minus 70 millivolts, let's say. Okay, it's somewhere around minus 70 millivolts. Now my question to you, why it is minus 70 millivolts? Why the voltage is always negative inside a cell? The reason for this negativity is because of the sodium potassium pumps. Okay, every cell in our body is having this sodium potassium pump. Now what the sodium potassium pump is doing? The sodium potassium pump, it throws 3 sodium ions out of the cell and it is bringing 2 potassium ions into the cell. Okay, so now tell me, 3 sodium loss and 2 potassium in. 3 positive charges are lost, but only 2 positive charges are coming in. So there is a net loss of positive charges. So as you are losing the positive charges out of the cells will become negative. This is one reason. This is not the main reason. This is one of the reason for the resting membrane potential. And also remember our cells, okay, during resting state, our cells are permeable to potassium. We know our cells are bags of potassium. We have lots and lots of potassium inside our cells. So always potassium will go from high concentration to low concentration. So continuously the positive charges are going out of the cell. As the positive charges are going out of the cell, okay, positivity is going out, the cell will become negative. So now tell me, what are the 2 reasons? Okay, what are the 2 reasons why our cell voltage is negative? All the cells in our body. The number 1 reason is a potassium leakage. Always during resting cells, remember, always resting cells are always highly permeable to potassium. Potassium is always going out of the cell. As potassium is going out of the cell will be negative. This is the main reason. And one more reason is this sodium potassium pump. Okay, 3 positive charge out, only 2 positive charge in. That is going to cause the net loss of the positive charges. So now tell me, what is the resting membrane potential of a neuron? During resting state, the voltage in the neuron is minus 70 millivolts. Okay, and what are the 2 reasons I have told you? So now I am just erasing the 2 reasons. Okay, now what exactly is a threshold potential? Okay, let me write here one more value is there, that is called as a TP, threshold potential. The threshold potential is minus 55 millivolts, minus 55 millivolts. So what exactly is this threshold potential? I will explain you. First I have explained you what is resting membrane potential. Now I am telling you there is one more value called as a threshold potential. Threshold potential value is minus 55 millivolts. Okay, threshold potential is the potential at which depolarization will happen. Okay, threshold potential is a potential at which the depolarization will happen for sure. So now what I am trying to explain you here is, see, when I am stimulating this neuron, okay, I am giving the stimulus. Okay, see, I am giving the stimulus. Okay, let's begin with a very little stimulus. Imagine on my skin there are like many neurons present. Okay, the neuron endings are present. So this is one such neuronal ending. Now when you are stimulating, very little stimulus I am giving, very little stimulus. For example, see here there are millions of bacteria present. This bacteria, they are reproducing, okay, they are happily, like, going for honeymoon, they are doing, okay, they are having their entire life cycles, they are dancing, they are partying, they are doing so many things. But do you think I can feel that stimulus? Do you think I can feel that sensation? No, actually there are microorganisms are present and they are doing so many things, but I am not aware of that because they are not producing any action potential, they are not causing any depolarization in the neurons. Okay, so such a small stimulus is not going to produce any depolarization. Why? Because when you are giving a very small little stimulus, okay, sub-threshold stimulus, what it is going to do? It is going to open some sodium channels. Yes, it actually opens the sodium channels. Very less number of sodium channels. Little stimulus is going to open a small number of sodium channels. So because of which the sodium will start to come into the cell. Okay, sodium, very little amount of sodium is going to come into the cell. These are mechanically opened sodium channels. Okay, these are not voltage sensitive sodium channels. They are mechanically operated sodium channels. If you give a little stimulus, the sodium channels will open. Because of that mechanical activity, sodium channel will open and little sodium is going to come into the cell. Now you tell me, sodium is which charge? Sodium is a positive charge. Okay, sodium is positive charge. Because of the influx of the positive charges, the voltage, Okay, the resting membrane potential, the voltage of resting membrane potential from minus 70 millivolts. Now, because of this positivity, now let's say it is becoming minus 58 millivolts. Means it is changing from minus 70, it is changing to minus 58 because some positive charges are coming in. No? Now tell me, threshold potential attained or not? No, threshold potential is not attained. So when threshold potential is not attained, no action potential is generated, no electricity is generated, no action potential propagation will occur in the neuron. So this is not enough. Okay, now I am giving a little bit more stimulus. Okay, now I am giving more stimulus. Now tell me, whenever I give more stimulus, more number of sodium channels are going to open. Okay, more number of sodium channels have opened. Now more sodium came into the cell. Okay, more sodium came into the cell. Now tell me, as more sodium is coming to the cell, more positive charges are coming, more positivity is happening. Now the voltage is reaching from minus 70 millivolts. Now it is reaching from minus 70 millivolts. Now let's say it is reaching to minus 55. Threshold potential is attained. Okay, threshold potential attained. Now once the threshold potential is attained, do you know what happens? Immediately at this voltage, see at this voltage inside the cell, now the voltage inside the cell is minus 55 millivolts. God designed our neurons in such a way, immediately the voltage sensitive sodium channels, see these are different sodium channels, see these are voltage sensitive sodium channels. Okay, actually what is the configuration? The voltage sensitive sodium channels, they are having gates. The gate which I am showing here, this is the activation gate, and the gate which I am showing here, this is the inactivation gate. Okay, activation gate, inactivation gate. Normally in the beginning, from the starting, the activation gate is closed and the inactivation gate is opened. Okay, from the beginning it is like that. From the beginning they are in this configuration. But once the threshold potential is attained, at this voltage, immediately what will happen? The activation gates will start to open. Look carefully here. What happened, guys? This activation gate opened. Okay, the activation gate opened. Slowly it opened. Now you tell me, as the activation gate opens, what will happen? The sodium which is more outside the cell. Okay, suddenly the sodium which is there more outside the cell, lots and lots of sodium will start to come in. Okay, so what I want you to understand, these are different type of sodium channels, these are different types of sodium channels. One is a voltage gated sodium channel with the activation and inactivation gates. Okay, now what is happening? Because of the opening of the activation gate, the sodium will start to come into the cell, and lots of sodium is coming into the cell. One more thing I forgot. See, imagine, let's say here there are 10 voltage gated, okay, sodium channels. All the 10 voltage gated sodium channels are open. All voltage gated sodium channels will open. Okay, all the voltage gated sodium channels will open. So remember, this is the most important point. Once the threshold is attained, once you have the threshold, okay, once you have the threshold, all the 10 voltage gated sodium channels in this region, all will open. It's not like a little stimulus, less number of channels will open, more the stimulus, more number of voltage gated sodium channels will open. No, it's not something like that. Okay, these are different channels. Once the threshold is attained, all the voltage gated sodium channels in this area, if there are 10, 10 will open. If there are 100, 100 will open. So there is going to be a massive influx of sodium. As sodium is coming into the cell, the voltage will reach from minus 55. Now it will reach from minus 55 to 0. From 0 to plus 10, plus 20, plus 30, plus 40. So this is called as a depolarization. The voltage is becoming positive within the cell. It is crossing 0 and going towards plus 20, plus 30, plus 40. This is called as depolarization. So first what happened? Let's say in the beginning, this is the resting membrane potential. Okay, this is the resting membrane potential of minus 70 millivolt. From the resting membrane potential, as you give little stimulus, okay, as you give the stimulus, first little stimulus, the voltage become little positive, and that's not threshold. Okay, threshold not reached. So again, it will come back to normal. Okay, because of the sodium potassium pumps, because of the potassium efflux, again the voltage, it will come back and coming back to normal. Now you are giving enough stimulus. When you give enough stimulus, the voltage will go from resting membrane potential, it is reaching to threshold. Okay, now it is reaching, see, from the resting membrane potential, it is reaching to threshold, that is minus 55 millivolts. So what will happen? All the voltage gated sodium channels will open in that region. So there is going to be massive influx of sodium. As massive influx of sodium, there is going to be depolarization. Okay, now the voltage is becoming, let's say, plus 40 millivolts. So this phase which I am showing in the red color, this is called as what? Depolarization. What is the meaning of the word depolarization? Okay, the voltage is crossing 0 and coming to positivity, plus 20, plus 20, plus 30, plus 40, depends on the type of the neuron. Okay, so okay, now it is plus 40. So this is what depolarization. And always remember, the depolarization is due to sodium influx. Depolarization is due to sodium influx via the voltage gated sodium channels. Now what will happen? See, once you having this plus 40 millivolts, okay, once you have this plus 40 millivolts, once at this voltage, see, God designed our channels in such a way, at this voltage, this activation gates, okay, they are still in open stage. Okay, the activation gates, they are still in open stage. Now what will happen? Look carefully. Now at this voltage of plus 40 millivolts, listen. Now I am talking about the same voltage gated sodium channel. Now the inactivation gates, see, the activation gate is still open. Okay, now the inactivation gates, they are closed. At this voltage, immediately these inactivation gates are closed. Now tell me, do you think sodium influx possible now? No, sodium influx is not possible. No more sodium influx. Okay, because the sodium cannot enter into the cell because the inactivation gate is closed. Okay, the sodium channel got inactivated because of the closure of the inactivation gate. Okay, now this is one event number 1. Now what else happens is the potassium channels will start to open. Now at this voltage, this potassium channel will open. Now what will happen? The potassium is starting to go out of the cell. Okay, potassium is starting to go out of the cell. Now you tell me, as the potassium is going out, potassium channels are different channels. As the potassium is going out, okay, the voltage, okay, from plus 40, it is starting to decrease because the positive charges are going out. See, the positive charge is going out. So what will happen? The voltage is decreasing, slowly decreasing. Okay, decreasing like this. Now it is coming back to, look guys, it is coming back to where? The resting membrane potential of minus 70. But these potassium channels, okay, they have to, ideally what should happen, once they are coming back to minus 70, they have to close. Immediately the potassium channels has to close. Okay, they have to close. But the closure of this potassium, they are very lazy channels. The potassium channels are very lazy channels. They do not close. They are going to open for a long time. Okay, there is going to be delayed closure of potassium channels. So more and more potassium will go out actually. As more and more potassium will go out, so voltage will even drop from minus 70 to minus 80, minus 90. So voltage is even dropping to minus 90, decreasing more. Okay, so from the resting membrane potential of minus 70, it is actually going down. It is actually decreasing. So this phase is called as hyperpolarization. Okay, this phase is called as what? Hyperpolarization. Okay, first there is repolarization. That's the potassium efflux is causing the repolarization. But due to the delayed closure of the potassium channels, actually voltage will even become more negative, minus 70, minus 80, minus 90, minus 100. It's becoming more negative. So that stage is called as hyperpolarization. Okay, for sometimes the neuron will be in hyperpolarization state, means highly inactivated, completely inactivated for some time. And after some time, because of the sodium potassium pumps and because of the sodium potassium pumps, it will correct the voltage back to normal. It will bring the voltage back normal. Okay, it will bring the voltage back to normal. So now what are the different phases that I am talking here? The different phases, see, first one is the resting membrane potential, from the resting membrane potential to the threshold potential, 1, and there is depolarization due to the sodium influx and repolarization due to the potassium efflux and hyperpolarization due to the delayed closure of the potassium channels. Again, potassium is going out, making the neuron more hyperpolarized. Okay, so these are the different events. Now you might be having a doubt, sir, when again the sodium channel will come back to the original place? See, during this repolarization phase, okay, okay, actually, to be very frank, during the repolarization and hyperpolarization, during the first one third from the 1/3 of repolarization, from the 1/3 of the repolarization, and during the hyperpolarization phase, do you know what will happen? Again, the activation gate will start to close. Activation gates which are supposed to close, they will close, and the inactivation gate will open. Okay, I will explain this. Okay, one more time. Don't worry. So what I am trying to say, the voltage gated sodium channels, they will come back to the original configuration. Okay, during the phase of repolarization and hyperpolarization, the activation gate will again start to close and the inactivation gate will again start to open, going back to the original position, because that's the original position, right? Okay, now you will be having a doubt, sir, then how this electricity is actually traveling? Okay, how this electricity is actually traveling in a neuron, how this action potential propagates? Okay, now let me explain you that. Students, let's draw the neuron again. Okay guys, here is a neuron. Okay, here is your neuron. Now again, what is the resting membrane potential of this neuron? The resting membrane potential of this neuron is, let's say, minus 70 millivolts. Now I am dividing the neuron into 3 parts. Okay, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, here I am showing the 3 segments of a neuron, 3 parts. Let's say everywhere the resting membrane potential is minus 70 millivolts. Okay, now what am I doing? See, I am giving the stimulus. Okay, I gave stimulus, enough stimulus I gave. Okay, enough stimulus I gave. Now whenever I am giving the enough stimulus, what will happen guys? The voltage gated sodium channels. First directly I am talking about the voltage gated sodium channels. Okay, I am not talking about the subthreshold stimulus, I am giving enough stimulus. So whenever I give enough stimulus, the voltage gated sodium channels. Okay, okay, let me come from the beginning. So when I give enough stimulus, what will happen? So sodium channels are going to open. Okay, let's say mechanically operated, more sodium channels are opened. So sodium comes into the cell. Okay, sodium comes into the cell. Whenever the sodium comes into the cell, you tell me what will happen. The voltage from minus 70 millivolts is going to reach minus 55 millivolts because of the sodium influx. The voltage is reaching from minus 70 millivolts to minus 55 millivolts. Okay, fine. At minus 55 millivolts, that is the threshold potential, right? This is the threshold potential. At this threshold potential, what will happen? The voltage gated sodium channels will open. Okay, the voltage gated sodium channels are opening. The activation gate got opened now. Okay, the activation gate just now opened. Because of the opening of this activation gate, sodium is going to come into the cell. Okay, sodium influx will occur. Now more sodium influx will occur. Okay, if there are 10 voltage gated sodium channels, all 10 will open. All the voltage gated sodium channels will open. So that's going to cause a massive influx of sodium into the cell. Because of the massive influx, the voltage is going to go from minus 55 millivolts to plus 40 millivolts, let's say, plus 40 millivolts. So this event is called as a depolarization, which you already know. Okay, depolarization. Now here I am going to explain you how this action potential is actually propagated. Okay, now how this electricity is actually traveling in the neuron. Now my question to you, see, in this area, what is the voltage now? Plus 40 millivolts. Plus 40 millivolts. And this plus 40 millivolts is because of what? This is all because of the sodium. Okay, lot of sodium is there now here. Do you think the sodium is going to stay here in this part of the neuron? Do you think only it will stay here? No, the neuron, okay, the sodium through the axoplasm, it will go to the surrounding regions also. The sodium is going to go into the surrounding part. Okay, now whenever the sodium comes here, now you tell me what the sodium will do. Because the positive charges are coming into this region, the voltage in this region will go from minus 70 millivolts to minus 55 millivolts in this region. So that is, the threshold potential is attained. Threshold potential is attained. Now you tell me, whenever the threshold potential is attained, what do you think will happen? So in this region, again the voltage gated sodium channels are going to open. The voltage gated sodium channels are going to open. Now whenever the voltage gated sodium channels are opened, there is going to be massive influx of the sodium. That is going to cause depolarization. So this area of the neuron is going to be depolarized, becoming plus 40 millivolts here also, depolarized. Okay, now this area got depolarized. Now my question is, the sodium whatever has came into this region, the sodium will go to the surrounding region, surrounding part. As the sodium is coming into this region, okay, the voltage from minus 70 millivolts is going to reach to minus 55 millivolts. That is, threshold potential is attained again. Now whenever the threshold potential is attained, immediately what that's going to cause? Whenever the threshold potential is attained, so all the voltage gated sodium channels in this region, all the voltage gated sodium channels in this particular part of the neuron, it's going to open. So that is going to cause a massive influx of sodium again. So again that is going to cause the depolarization. So now you understand, if one segment of the neuron, if you stimulate on one end, if you stimulate the one end of the neuron, so the depolarization of the one segment is going to cause a further depolarization of the surrounding segment. This area is going to cause the depolarization of the surrounding segment. So this is how one area, if one area of the neuron is stimulated, that's going to cause the depolarization of the surrounding area, depolarization of the surrounding area, depolarization of the surrounding area. This is how okay, the sodium is going to travel to the surrounding part leading to the depolarization. Again sodium comes into the cell, so that sodium will go further. So this is how the ions are flowing, which is nothing but the flow of electricity. The flow of ions is what? The flow of ions is the electricity. Okay, the voltage is changing. Okay, voltage is kept on changing in the neuron. So this is how the action potentials are traveling in the neuron. So the depolarization of one area is going to cause a depolarization of the surrounding area. Okay, so this is how the action potentials are propagating on the neuron. Okay, now what else you should know here? That is all or none law. All or none law. So what is all or none law? All or none law means, okay, if there is depolarization, it is going to be complete depolarization. If there is no depolarization, means no depolarization. So there is no intermediate depolarization. Okay, what I am trying to say, see, once threshold is attained, okay, once you have minus 55 millivolts, okay, in a neuron, once you have minus 55 millivolts, there is going to be complete depolarization of minus 40 or minus 50 or minus 60, depending on the type of the neuron. Okay, if once you have the threshold potential, there is going to be complete depolarization. All the voltage gated sodium channels in this region, they will open. So there is going to be complete depolarization. If threshold potential is not attained, okay, if threshold potential is not attained, there is no depolarization. There is no such thing as like intermediate depolarization. For example, let me give you an example. The FMG exam, okay, the foreign medical graduate exam. See, in order to clear the exam, in order to pass the exam, how many marks you need to get? Out of 300 marks, you need to get 150 marks. Okay, if you get 150 marks, you are done. You tell me, if you get 149 marks, okay, 149 marks, do you think the examiner, is he going to allow you? Okay, the NBE, okay, the NBE, the National Board of Examinations, will they say, okay, you got 149? No, almost you got 149. So, okay, will pass you? No. If you get 150, you are passed. There is no such thing like you are little passed, you are medium passed, you are completely passed. It's not something like that. If you get 150, you are 100% passed. 150 is equal to 300. You get 150 or you get 151 or you get 200 or 300, doesn't matter. If you get 150, you are passed. But if you get 149, you are not clearing the exam. So in the same way, depolarization also. If there is a depolarization, complete depolarization. If threshold potential is attained, complete depolarization. If threshold potential is not attained, there is no depolarization. For example, you are giving very little stimulus. You are giving little stimulus. This little stimulus is going to bring the resting membrane potential. It's bringing the resting membrane potential from minus 70 millivolts to minus 56 millivolts, let's say. Because of the stimulus, the voltage is reaching from minus 70 millivolts, it is reaching to minus 56 millivolts, let's say. Minus 56 millivolts. Okay. Do you think depolarization will happen? Do you think the sodium channels will open? And almost reach, no, just only 1 millivolt change. So do you think the voltage gated sodium channels in this region, they will open? No. At least one voltage gated sodium channel will open? No. If they open completely. All 10 will open. If they don't open, they don't open. Okay. So yes, this is called as all or none law. All or none law, which means there is depolarization, complete depolarization, or no depolarization. There is no intermediate depolarization. Let's say you give almost stimulus, almost minus 55 reached, like the minus 56 reached. So let's say little depolarization, like plus 10 millivolts. Okay, instead of plus 40, let's say plus 10 millivolts. No, there is no such thing. Okay, this is called as all or none law. Okay, action potentials follows all or none law. Okay, with this, what we have completed? We have completed the action potentials. Okay, how the action potentials are actually traveling in the neuron. Now let's see some important MCQs. Okay, we'll discuss some important MCQs. In the further videos, in the next videos, we'll be also discussing about the absolute refractory period, what is a relative refractory period, what are the classifications of the nerve fibers. We'll discuss that. But now let's see some important MCQs. Okay, which of the following ions are primarily responsible? Tell me, primarily responsible for the depolarization. I have told you it's the sodium channels, voltage gated sodium channels. Sodium is responsible for the depolarization. What is the main event during the repolarization? Repolarization. What is the main event? The main event during the repolarization is efflux of potassium going out. During absolute refractory period. Okay, we haven't discussed about the absolute refractory period. In the next video, we'll be discussing about the refractory period. Okay, absolute and relative refractory period. So just leave it. What is approximate resting membrane potential of a typical neuron? The resting membrane potential, how much? Minus 70 millivolts. I have told you what is the reason for minus 70 millivolts. Every cell in our body is having a minus value. Why? Because of the potassium efflux. Positive charges are going out and sodium potassium pumps. Okay. Next, which of the following allows increases the conduction velocity of the neurons. Okay, see, if the neuron is highly myelinated, okay, the neuron is highly myelinated, it will help in faster conduction. The voltage, the electricity will flow quickly. Okay, the higher the insulation, the higher the myelination, the higher the conduction velocity. Okay, so conduction velocity depends on what? The conduction velocity depends on the myelination. In the classification of the nerve fibers topic, again I will explain you. It is the myelination, it is the diameter of the neuron, okay, which will decide the conduction speed. Okay, next up, what is the role of sodium potassium pump in the neurons? I have told you the role of the sodium potassium pump is to maintain the resting membrane potential. Okay, they will maintain the resting membrane potential of -70 or -60, -80 something value. Okay, they are the ones responsible for the resting membrane potential. The hyperpolarization, also called as the undershoot. Depolarization is overshoot. Hyperpolarization means undershoot, which means more inactive. The hyperpolarization is due to what? I have told you, potassium channels remain open longer than the needed. There is a delayed closure of the potassium channels. Potassium channels are open for a long time. So more potassium will go out, leading to more inactivation, more hyperpolarization. Okay. Saltatory conduction. Saltatory conduction occurs in myelinated axons. What does I mean by? Let me tell you students here, saltatory conduction means, let me draw the neuron again. Okay. See, I am dividing the neuron into multiple segments now. Okay. So this is the area where there is myelination. Let's say here the neuron is having the myelination. Okay, these are the areas of myelination. This is the area where the myelin sheath is covered. In between the myelin sheath, there are gaps. So this area is called as the nodes of Ranvier. Okay, this area is called as the nodes of nodes of Ranvier. So what exactly this saltatory conduction means? See, if one area is depolarized. Okay, one area is depolarized. That is plus 40 millivolts. Here lot of sodium is there. Now this sodium, okay, it is going to come to the surrounding region. Okay, it is going to come to the surrounding region. Now this sodium, okay, once it comes here, okay, the sodium, what it will do, see, there are no sodium channels in this region. Okay, there are no sodium channels. So now the sodium is going to travel to the surrounding part here. So first this area is depolarized. Okay, this area is depolarized. The sodium is going to travel like this in the exoplasm. When the sodium is traveling, coming to this region, again here threshold potential is attained. Because of the sodium, threshold potential is attained. Again the voltage gated sodium channels in this region are opened, so that is going to cause a depolarization here. Depolarization. So again this area is depolarized. Okay. Now lot of sodium is present here. Now the sodium through the exoplasm it will come, because here in this area no sodium channels are present, no voltage gated sodium channels are present, because it's totally covered with the myelination. So again here depolarization is going to occur. So depolarization is happening in this area, okay, here in this area, in this area, in this area, not continuously. Okay, so depolarization is jumping, okay, jumping like this. So that is called as a saltatory conduction. Okay, not continuously, not continuously. So here immediately this area will be depolarized, this area will be depolarized, because here this area is totally, okay, this area is totally covered with the myelin sheath. Okay, so no sodium channels, no potassium channels in this region. So the depolarization is jumping from one region to other region, from one region to other region. This is called as a saltatory conduction, and the saltatory conduction is seen with the myelinated axons, myelinated neurons. Okay, so yes, now this is completed. Myelinated axons are going to show the saltatory conduction. Which statement about the voltage gated sodium channels are true? Yes, voltage gated sodium channels, they have the activation gates as well as the inactivation gates. I have told you the activation gate and inactivation gate. Activation gate is going to open during the depolarization. During repolarization, the inactivation gate is going to close. Okay. Next question. Which factor does not affect the speed of action potential conduction? The speed of voltage conduction, the speed of electricity conduction is mainly determined by the myelination and the diameter of the axon. Myelination, the diameter of the axon, and the exoplasmic resistance. They are going to determine the conduction velocity. But the neurotransmitter type, whether it is acetylcholine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine, the neurotransmitter will never decide the flow of conduction, the flow of electricity. The flow of electricity is determined by the number of sodium channels, the diameter of the axon, the myelination of the axon, the axonal resistance. They will determine the conduction velocity, but not the neurotransmitter type. Okay. More we'll discuss more about the absolute refractory period and the relative refractory periods. I will also discuss about the amplitude of the action potentials is always a constant, but the frequency may change in the upcoming videos. But in this video, these are the basics that we have studied. Hope the video is helpful. Thank you.